Everyone, so I just wanted to give you a quick update on part 3 for our StoryMap project that is ongoing. So in this third profile, you're going to be looking at a geographer named Ruth Wilson Gilmore. And she is very well known on her research on the prison system. And the particular part of her work you're going to really be looking at is a book that she wrote a few years ago called Golden Gulag. And so just wanted to take a minute to go through some materials on Canvas and just to give you an overall picture of what you're going to be putting together. So if you look on Canvas, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page for all this. So the assignment links are at the top of the project. So on our module in Canvas, the 3 parts of the assignment are here. And so you're going to be making the same story map. It's going to be the same link that you submit each time, but the instructions for each part of the assignment and what you really needed to turn in, that's all shown in the assignment link. Okay, the materials that you'll be working with to work on the projects are further down in the project module, so under each person's name. So for this section on Ruth Wilson Gilmore, what you're going to be doing is a little bit of reading and watching a video that she is in to gather your materials together to get what it is that you want to write about her. And so I've put a lot of background and some of the main points of her research in the assignment link. And so you can have that little bit to help you get started. And if you see here on Canvas, the best choice is probably just to read the introduction of her book. So then that's just not even the whole first chapter, just pages 5 to 25. Okay, that might seem like a lot for you, but really it's a really easy to read book. It's not really dense. It doesn't have a lot of jargon. It is pretty easy to read compared to a lot of academic books. So that's the best choice if you want to get really an idea of what her argument is. And you don't really have to commit every word to memory. You don't have to take painstaking notes. Just, read at a pace in which you feel like you get an idea of what her argument is all about. And really what's going on here is, as I explained in the assignment link, her project really started when she was looking at the increased prison populations and the growth of actual prisons, right? That the number of prisons increased dramatically, really since 1980 in California. And she was trying to figure out why that is. And the kind of common sense, general public explanation, was always that, there was this big increase in crime, and that's a response to the crime, these crime waves or whatever. But if you look at actual crime data, crime rates were going down before all these prisons, really kept getting built. And then the prison populations kept going up even when crime rates were going down. So she is trying to figure out, why that is. And there's a geography to it too, also, where a lot of the new prisons, state prisons, actually, we got to be clear that she's talking about the state prisons. This isn't like local prisons or county or federal. These are state prisons. That most of these new prisons were being built in rural areas. And so she saw this link between the prisons being built in rural areas and then most of the prisoners coming from urban areas. Of course, that's where most of the population is. But there's also some other things going on with, I'm going to leave this to you to read into what her arguments are. So really, she's just trying to explain, why is this happening? It doesn't, if you start looking into it, it doesn't make sense because crime is going down. So why is the prisons being built in the first place? Why are they being built where they are being built? And then how is it that people are, becoming more and more incarcerated? All right. So read that book as the best choice. If you feel like that you don't want to dive in that much, I have a couple of links here as kind of secondary choices to get to know her work. And this comes from book reviews. So book review is often published in peer-reviewed journals, and they're really good ways to get to know what a good summary of a book. And they usually end with a little bit of critique of the book. But for your purpose here, if you read the book reviews, they do give you a pretty good summary, and they are not that short. The book reviews are a couple pages long, but they are good summaries. And then you've got a video to go along with it, which isn't directly based on the book that you're talking about. It goes into a lot of her other work that has to do with how the economy and race are so tightly entwined with one another. And then ultimately, you are going to be working on this third section of your story map. And I've written a few on the example story map. You're going to be looking at her work and trying to summarize her work. But also you're going to be working with some other aspects of ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to have you add an image. It should be an easy thing to do, but there are a few things that you've got to figure out on how to place an image. You're going to add another video, which you've done in another assignment. But the biggest, newest, probably the most complicated GIS part of this project is creating a web map of the state prisons in California and showing them on the web map that classifies them according to the year in which they opened. So we see the location of the prisons, of the state prisons, and then we also see them color-coded by the year in which they opened. And you actually make this map as a completely separate product. In contrast to one of the other parts of this project where you created what ArcGIS Online calls an express map, this is not an express map. This is an actual real GIS web map, and you've got to go into another part of ArcGIS Online and create that web map, and then you're going to add that web map into the story map. And I've got another tutorial video where I go through all of that for you. That's pretty much it. You're going to do a little bit of reading about Ruth Wilson Gilmore. You're going to read about her idea that she comes up with is this phrase called a prison fix. So she's got what we can call the prison fix thesis. And basically she's saying that the growth of prisons and the expansion of the state prison system in California was a geographical solution to a political economic crisis. And they were trying to fix it. It wasn't really about dealing with crime. It was about a few other things. And she goes into 4 types of surplus. All right, so there's this term called surplus that you're going to have to read a little bit about and get an idea of what this is. And it's okay if it doesn't quite make too much sense to you, but as long as you can get the general idea, that's what I'm looking for here. So there's different kind of surplus. So, like there's too much of something, right? And this comes from some ideas in economic geography where a lot of times there's economic crises when there's surplus capital, right? There's so much investment that it can no longer be spent, or it can't be put into circulation because there's too much. So there's these kinds of surplus that she's trying to think about and why that might lead to an expansion of the prison system. Right? And there's some other things that you'll find out about, like in the late 1970s, there was a law passed in California that limited the property taxes. And so that put a little bit of crisis in the state with a reduction in tax revenues. And so there's a lot of things that were going on here. And the enactment of some new laws, like the 3 strikes law, that led to increased prison population. So you're going to read a little bit of this. We're going to try to make a map. This is going to be maybe a little bit more challenging for you on the GIS side. Even if you have a lot of GIS experience, if you haven't worked in ArcGIS Online with the web maps, then this is going to be a new experience for you. But so you're going to add some data to a map. You're going to do some custom symbology, and you're going to put some things together into that web environment. So take a look at the other tutorial video that I'll post for the GIS stuff. This video is really just to kind of give you an intro to this part of the project. All right, thanks.